Okay, maybe using postage stamps in collage art isn't exactly a secret, but I definitely think postage stamps are underutilized and underappreciated. Today I'm going to show you how I use postage stamps in my collage art, and I will show you how you can acquire some so that you can experiment in your own art. Here's something you may or may not know about me. I am borderline obsessed with postage stamps. I love playing with them, I love sorting them, I love categorizing them by age and theme and color, and then I love gluing them into journals and into glue books. So today I'm showing you ways that I use postage stamps, and in addition to that, I will show you how you can get a hold of some, how I store them more or less, and then at the end of this video I will share a story with you of the strangest thing I have found in a box of old stamps. So let's start with ways that I use postage stamps in my collage art. So the first way that I like to use postage stamps is by using them in these little notebooks. So on my desk here I have these small notebooks that are pretty much the size of a passport, and with two of them, actually there's this company called the Unemployed Philosophers Guild who makes these little notebooks, and I will show you how I use them. But first let me do this bigger guy here. So in this little guy, I just use some different pieces of paper and then some images of stamps or stamps themselves. Sometimes I find images of stamps in publications. I belong to the American Philatelic Society, I believe it's called, and there they post articles about stamps, and so I cut them out and use them in my collages. Other times I'll use the real thing, just create some spreads with various pieces of papers, maybe some rubber stamping, and then a postage stamp or two. These guys are a little bit more involved. I like the idea of having a penmanship theme through all of my collaged pages. So I just made sure that I had some handwriting samples throughout, mostly from letters. And of course, I've used a lot of postage stamps. The other thing in this book is a theme of blue, you could probably tell, and also I used some violet, blues and violets on these pages. And here I have just a bunch of stuff. Sometimes when I see a stamp or I see something and I think, oh, that would work in my penmanship book. So I just set it aside, or I'll stick them in the back of the pages to get them ready for the next time I sit down with it. Same thing with this one. This is my Mars passport book. I have a bunch of space related things that I will eventually keep going with. Here's the cover. On the inside, this was really cool. For the photo, there is this strange postage stamp by, I guess this is, it's a Hungarian stamp. It's a dog, I don't even know, Canis something. But it's such a strange image. And I thought, oh, that would be really good for my Mars passport. And then inside I just collaged these little collages with stamps, all in the space theme. There's another page I really like. This one, I really like this one. That stamp is really gorgeous. I like that one. This is Star Trek, yay! And I still have more pages to go, so I've got more work to do in that. So these are the first ways that I use postage stamps. Another way I like to use stamps are in things like ATCs and other kinds of small art. Here are some examples of ATCs that I've made. Again, most of these are pretty colorful, and I do like to use vintage style. The second way I like to use postage stamps is in postcard art. So you may have seen I have other YouTube videos up about different themed things that I do with postcards, if it's Valentine's Day or Easter. So I like to do that and host those art exchanges with postcards. And I also like to make postcard art with a postal theme. So sometimes I will make the art on a postcard and not put that card in the mail directly, but put it inside an envelope and then mail it off. Other times I will make the collage on the envelope using elements of what is already on the envelope. That is really fun also. That's a cool way to use up additional postage stamps and then also decorate the cover as you would like. The third example I have to show you is this journal. Look how fat it has gotten. I pulled out a whole bunch of pages, but it's just expanding larger and larger and larger. Inside, I have done collaging with mostly just postage stamps, but then also sometimes I've done some mixed media along with it. So I really love to play with color on these postage stamps, and I feel like you don't need to add any other art supplies when you have super colorful stamps. It's enough, they are the attraction. The color is the attraction, right? So in some of these spreads, it's just the postage stamp that are just laid out in interesting arrangements. I really like to do these types of arrangements where you have two colored tones, and the way this works is that for these middle stamps are the ones that kind of set the theme. So here on the left, it is this kind of golden yellow on the outside and then this magenta in the middle. So that's where I put the color on the bottom as the yellow and then the magenta on the top. Same thing with this. It is a blue outline and then green in the middle. So I did green here and blue above. I also did this one to Edgar Allan Poe. I really liked that this stamp was so dark, and this is not a stamp. This came from a catalog, the catalog from the US Post Office where they sell postage stamps. I cut it out and then I glued it on here and chose a color that I wanted to put around it. And I chose red because there's red there in the lettering up top. Here's another one of just choosing straight up color. I just wanted the color to be the star of the show on both of these collages. So these hearts here, what you can do is you don't necessarily need to do art and keep the stamp in its whole shape. What I did with these guys was I collaged clusters of stamps together, and then I used a punch, a die cut punch to create hearts. And then when I glued them in, then I just used a little bit of ink around the outsides. All right, so where do you find postage stamps? Well, there's quite a few ways actually. The first is online, of course. Some really good places to look are eBay and Etsy. If you're looking for quantity, large amounts, you can look first on eBay. Stamps are sold actually, or they can be sold by the pound. So sometimes if you're just looking for just a jumble of different kinds of stamps and you're not picky, You can find, you know, a big Ziploc bag of stamps, and they're not expensive at all. Just look for ones that are off paper rather than on paper, because it's a lot of work to soak envelopes to get stamps off. So yeah, that would be the only suggestion I would have there. On Etsy, there are really good offers for stamps, and you can look for themes. So say you're looking for just nature, or just botanical, or just butterflies, or you know, whatever themes. Or you can look for stuff in a single color, or in rainbow, or you know, like that. So just have a look, and those are usually in smaller quantities. So whatever is of interest to you, they will probably have. Here I have on my desk a album. This small one I got online through eBay. And in this small one, I have just a kind of a collection of Czechoslovak stamps. These little albums are a great way to store your stamps, though it's not necessary. It's not necessary to sort them. This one, these are sorted, but in this big album came from my sister-in-law, who knows me very well, to get me something like this for Christmas. It's just, the stamps are just put in there, right? And it's just there. It's nice because you can look through the colors and see, you know, what would work for a project that you are working on. The other way that I like to store these is just in plastic Ziplocs, large Ziplocs and small Ziplocs. I like when there's a bunch of loose stamps in a Ziploc bag, because then I could just hold the bag up and kind of shake it in my hand, and then kind of just, you know, see, oh, that's the stamp I want to use, and then reach in and grab it. I kind of like the randomness of pulling something out of a bag, so that works really well too. Another place that you can find postage stamps is at a stamp show. So depending where you are, there will be stamp shows traveling around, likely in your area. There are a lot of stamp clubs pretty much everywhere. I know there's plenty in the US. I know there's some in Canada and Europe. So it's just a matter of going online and looking for your local stamp club. If you are not interested in joining your stamp club, just find out when the next show will be. Maybe it'll be worth a trip somewhere to go check one out. They are interesting, very interesting. Lots of vendors, and they tend to be, you know, they're professionals, that they're selling to people who know what kinds of stamps they're looking for, more or less. But sometimes, you know, you might strike up a conversation with someone, and when they ask you what are you looking for, you know, you can just say, well, I'm looking for stamps that I can, you know, use in art. And, you know, somebody hopefully will have something set aside that are not of too much value, that they wouldn't mind you destroying with scissors and glue to make some art. If you have any recommendations of other places that you have gotten stamps, or that you know of where you can get stamps, do leave them in the comments. I would be curious to know some other suggestions of where you can find stamps. Okay, for those of you who have stayed to the end, I will share the strangest thing that I found inside a shoebox of postage stamps. So I got this shoebox from a stamp show. I had gone through and visited the different vendors, and I found one who was selling some really cool stamps, and I said, hey, I'm looking for some old postage stamps, just nothing in particular, just a jumble of things. And he said, well, I've got this box, you know, I'll sell it to you for whatever amount. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. So I went home and started pulling the stamps out, And at the very bottom of the shoebox were row after row after row of bundled postage stamps. So they were in sets of, I don't know how many stamps in each set, but they were all tied together individually with string. And on a lot of the bundles, they had broken. So I pulled them out so carefully. The stamps were super dry. They must have been, I don't know, in a garage or somewhere where they just dried out because they were bent, and when you tried to straighten them out, they would crack. So I set them out, and then I got some string and I set about to create or to put those bundles back the way they were in at the beginning. My kids came around. I had, they must have been about 4 and 7 at the time. And they said, "Mom, what is that? What are you doing?" And I told them, I showed them what it was, these little stamps. And they were like, "Oh, I'll help you. We will help you. We want to do this. We want to bundle these stamps too." So I was a little surprised that little kids wanted to bundle stamps, but it was just the funniest thing to hand them string, and then their little hands holding these little stacks of stamps and, you know, winding them around and binding them. So I thought that was super cool. So in the end, I had about 70 of these sets of bundled stamps. And what do you do with them, right? What do you do with these? I didn't want to give them away, so I put them in a cigar box and I filled it up. I filled up this little cigar box. It's super cute. What do you do with it? What's the purpose of it? To me, it's kind of a shrine to postal beauty. It's something that I can put out, which I do have out in my living room on my shelf. So there you go. That's the strangest thing that I found in a box of stamps. So let me know in the comments if you use postage stamps yourself in collage art and what you like to do with them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you the next time.